All right, welcome back. Whoa. Welcome. I know I gotta go. Hang on. It keeps wanting to play, the commercials. So, welcome back to my second installment of the evening, which would be video 3, because I had to do the first one in 2 installments of my reading of the Smallville Re-union movie. I have the Supergirl trilogy in a big binder printed off in one copy sitting on a shelf in my apartment in Gatineau. And if all goes well, I'll be on the radio soon and I'll be reading my movie. So there's plenty of work to come, plenty of material to listen to, plenty of reasons to tune in and support me and be excited about what's ahead in the future. So eventually I'll be able to have my little intro with my video that I made, custom made. Playing for you guys to start off and everything, but so for now I'll just have to show you off of here. When it plays off of here, you have to rough it when you're just starting out in these things, right? So the second part here, I gotta switch back to the Spotify. We're gonna start from the song I left off with on the last segment, which was 5 for Fighting and 100 Years. So I'm gonna try to get this. Okay, I have to go back and then come forward, and there we go. I love this band. I love so many of his songs. I swear he's writing my life story in some ways. It's my soul. I will use some of the Smallville sounds tracks here and there as well, but mostly I like to just stick to myself and be original. So, day 2, high school. Remember, he went to sleep thinking about hoping tomorrow will be good, and he hadn't been inside the high school in a long time now, right? So he's got to go back for a long time, go into the school halls, and lots has happened, and the reunion is awkward for these things based on the history of what's happened here. So before heading out the door to face those haunted grounds of his high school and all those memories of those busy days and young love and a young Superman he once was, Clark thought that would be a good time and opportunity for himself to take a few minutes to take in the quiet, somber, lovely scenery and richness of the childhood farm he grew up on. So Clark went outside, walks ahead until he's standing just steps away from the farm field. He acknowledged the unsuccessful, naked barrenness of the field without his father there to keep it active and full of richness, beauty, and life. Clark thought, there must be a way that I can help Mom with the farm. There must be a way that we can bring this place back to life, put it back together again, including the section Jonathan sold some while back. But what the total answer is to it for the projected future when he leaves the farm and leaves his mother here to live alone on it, well, that answer still evades him. But hopefully soon that answer will come to him. He knows his mother has an idea, but it is still just that, an idea, and how much of the land could she turn into sunflowers and manage to maintain while fighting the wildlife around, especially birds. So, in the meantime, he knew to keep thinking and searching for other answers and possibilities. What else is there? Could there be, in case Mom's plans don't work? And while standing there thinking about it all, as he looked up over the farm, the wind suddenly picked up and Clark took in a deep, healthy breath. Gasp of wonderful, good country air. Something he especially, considering his abilities, in which he definitely missed about living on a farm compared to his current city newspaper life. And in seconds he smelled something different, something new, and it infused his nostrils like never before, and they flared out, and he almost gave a snort like some kind of beastly bull. It tickled those hairs just so. Never in his life had he ever reacted in such a way. It was the smell of a person, a female person to be exact, but who she was and how long has she been here in Smallville, and why hadn't he noticed her before or met her yet? Around this time, his mother was now outside puttering around and noticed her son's odd behavior. Unusual, in a funny kind of way, expression on his face, and that made her walk over to where he was standing to see if she could see what he was seeing, but she didn't see anything. So she turned to him with a puzzled look on her face and asked him, "Clark, what is it? What has you looking so dazed and confused?" "I can smell something. Something unusual, something new, rather someone. I can smell all of her. Every layer of every little thing she does to take care of herself." And so on. With a loving, almost romantic tone, he goes on to say, "I never smelled anyone so beautiful in my life. So why don't I know her? Why now?" Now we'll listen to it some more. "Why now am I smelling this? Her? Who is the new girl in town, Mother?" His mother laughing and smiling at her son. "Oh my word, my dear son. TMI, too much information. That is too much information for my mother ears to be hearing coming from my son. Looks like you have yourself a mission. You'd better go find her, or this will drive you crazy. Seeing as how you are Superman, aka a superhuman, and so this effect will be constant for you if you don't figure it out. Who is new in town?" She asked herself out loud as she started thinking about an answer, and then said, "Well, there really isn't anyone new per se that I can think of, except, well, maybe Janet. Now, Janet would be a girl that bought a dilapidated property somewhere in the past throughout the years that had this vision about her retirement days and thought she could turn it into a home when she's ready to settle down in a slower pace, leaving her life in the city and everything she was doing there. So people knew about this person and this property purchase and the nightmare of restoring it, but nobody thought about it because she would be gone for really long periods of time. But now something's changed. So she said she is a life coach. She is a professional instructor and leader. She teaches all sorts of courses. And first aid at the high school is one of them. But she has been here for well over 6 years now. So the townfolk don't exactly consider her new anymore. As for why you've never met her, well, that's easy. First of all, you haven't stepped foot inside your high school or on those high school grounds in over a decade, so you wouldn't know she's in there. Secondly, your new fast-paced city life has changed you, changed your observations and attention, care and detail on things that are going on around here in Smallville. Since your father's death, you've always behaved like coming here to visit me for Thanksgiving is, well, like a chore. One you wish you could stop obligating yourself to because you are so uncomfortable, unhappy, sad still that my beloved husband and your beloved Earth Father is gone. So you stopped slowing down to smell the roses around here some time ago. Now, she thinks that he doesn't know who she is, but obviously growing up there and for purchasing the property, everybody would know, including him, even if it wasn't discussed. But he didn't think about it. I don't even remember the last time you yourself went into town during the visits you've returned to have with me. Mostly you just come for your 4 nights and spend that time here with me, and then you get into your city car and quickly leave as fast as you come, sometimes on this motorcycle. So, an opportunity for me to talk about Janet just really wasn't something you ever gave me. You're a little old, slowing down Earth Mother, a chance to mention any news or changes going on around these here parts of your childhood home. Oh, I gotta turn this off. So you only have yourself to blame for that one, son. She pats him on the back of his shoulder as she turns and walks away from the man he now is and the son of hers he once was. And as she was walking away, she says these final words, asking this final question before going back inside her house and away from the rest of the day that now stood ahead of both of them. "Everything? You can smell everything about her?" While laughing and shaking her head, he answers, "Everything." Martha, oh my. I mean, it's true every man knows his own. It's part of how they know they found their wife. The absolute right one of them. Where do you think all those jokes from men talking about how good or horrible their wives' quiche, or any quiche is for that matter, comes from? They both laugh hard now. Even your father knew that smell. My smell was the right one for him. He knew on that very first smell test pass day that he was going to make me his wife. And we certainly didn't rush into marriage. Somehow, once he got all that animal senses and food stuff out of the way, he no longer felt concerned, worried, or threatened about time and the risk of losing me and having someone pull me away, because he knew that smell, and he said it out loud to himself. That's mine. I don't think he ever stopped smiling from that day forward until the day we both lost him. And you've been through a few relationships that have all promptly failed. So maybe all those stories and words of wisdom from men's past still now talked about and shared today has some more truth and common sense and actual reality to it all after all. This could be the sign for you, son. Now, finally, it's the classic omen. And the one sign and omen, might I suggest, that you don't ignore, that maybe you will this time rather take the time to slow down, to dig deeper into and look for more answers and understanding of your life. Get the answers your heart, mind, body, and soul need before forgetting about it. Shutting it out and dismissing it and going back to your city life, my son. What do you think your Kryptonian parents would say about this? And about it happening now? That's lots to think about right there. So I will now leave you to it. To do so, think all about it and decide what that means and where that should and is supposed to take you and your life now. Clark shaking his head, repeating words his mother says, thinking about it all. Quiche, yuck. I can't stand the stuff. No woman has ever been able to cook that in a good enough way so that I can eat it. So you're saying that quiche is the reason for why all my relationships have failed? An omen? So like there is this thing about aging or manhood or the right time and place, a passage of time that comes when that experience, that smell takes place in each man's life? And if you're lucky, you're young when it happens, so most men are lucky then? But I'm not so lucky. I've had to wait till I've reached my 40s to experience the right and passage and stage that takes place for all men. So I must have been doing something wrong somewhere in my early years. If my superhuman sensitive qualities never ran into this experience prior to now, it's all too complicated, relationships. This whole thing is just too much. So late in life. Anyways, he goes on to say, great, now does not make me feel good. Like you said, I guess I truly do need to slow down and smell the roses, as it were. Thanks for the talk, Mom. It might just have worked, and I might just now suddenly realize I have a lot to think about. Not just about you and this farm and life without Dad, but about me and about my life too. Now apparently starting this minute. I'll keep you posted on how my adventures and searching goes. Myself soul searching. I hopefully it can and will lead to a good place. Perhaps quite seriously, much better than where I now am and have been for these past number of years. From death and love loss. I love you, Mom. The spring door to the house shut behind Martha just after Clark managed to say those last 3 words. He then returned to looking out at the family's farm field in front of him and studied it with one last good stare of the task that lay ahead. And while these last thoughts in this last moment took place, he also decided to take advantage of the mildly gusty weather and used his super abilities to help create a stronger wind, creating channel of flowing air, and he mustered up all his inhaling powers that be after he stopped blowing and took in the largest breath of that wonderful air he could not get enough of. Last gulp of gratification of the smell of the beauty he was surrounded in that he has yet to meet. He sighed a woo under his breath about her when he was done and shook his head to try and shake it off of him and get the hairs that were standing up all over his body to go down. For that fateful, inevitable day was now upon him, and he must refocus his thoughts and energy on that task at hand. It was time to bite the bullet and go to visit the high school and step foot inside the building again for the first time, as his mother had already pointed out, in well over a decade. He just hoped he could handle all the emotions of what will pass through him as he's walking through the hallways, looking at all the pictures on the walls and trophies kept in good care safely in their place for so long. One way or another, he thought to himself as he headed towards his car. He knew that he was and must find a way to go to and get through attending, of course, participate joyfully, and get through the awkward and the obvious high school reunion ahead of him. He owed it to Lana, and he owed it to himself, and there might be a few other persons not mentioned in name in his mind as of yet that he also probably owes this visit here for as well. Once reaching his car, he put his hand out for the handle and opened the door. There is no going back from here. There is only going forward. The final words he said, in reassurance to himself, as he got settled in the driver's seat, started up his car, and drove away from his mother and the farm, determined to get it right. Determined to get this one visit and full Smallville reunion just right. And then his car disappeared into the distance. That's the end of that part. Next, part 2. Ooh, maybe I should try to find another song. Hang on, let's see what we can find. And he's gonna pull up to the next scene. What can we do here? Let's go back to here. Let's give us some music. Come on, Christopher. Let's see. Let's see what this is. This is My World. It's a Hans Zimmer piece. It's off a playlist that's all this Superman stuff. Can't really hear it yet. Give it a few seconds. All right. Whew. Walking through the halls for the first time in over a decade, Clark took note of what was different and what was not. One of the things that was different he spotted in the gymnasium. There was a new lady in town, and all over the floor was a bunch of first aid supplies and dummies, so evidently she was connected to some sort of first aid class. While observing quietly at the door, Lana's ghost sneaks up behind him quietly and whispers in his ear. Come to think of it, Clark, I don't think you yourself have ever taken a first aid course. A little ironic, don't you think? How much of a real man of steel can you be without it? Clark says, I've managed so far in life to get along without it, haven't I? But yes, I do see your point. Maybe while I am in town, I might sign up for the class. Should be interesting to see how well I'll do. I mean, how hard can it be? Lana, you'd be surprised, Clark. You'd be surprised. She pats him on the shoulder and walks away smiling, and her ghost disappears. Clark decides to go introduce himself to this new face in the high school he once attended. He walks over to where she is and stands in front of her and smiles as he puts his hand out to shake her, saying, fumbling his words, as his nose and super self and hormones becomes drastically and immediately aware that his mother was indeed right. This is the lady he was smelling when standing outside the house looking out over the family farm field. And so it begins, his inability, right, to get things quite right whenever he's around this new face and wonderful force of life, as he quickly discovers, as the story over time will tell. The intensity of the effect she had on him, as he now stood so close to her, he was barely able to contain his thoughts, not blurt out what he was thinking about her wonderful self-care all his senses were so keenly aware of. Clark says, hi, I'm Clark. The words he finally stumbled out of his mouth. I'm a former student of the high school. I would just like to introduce myself since I've never had the pleasure of meeting you before. But I probably had. I just don't remember. First aid teacher, Janet, smiling back, puts the dummy in her hand down and reaches out to shake his hand. Hi, my name is Janet. I'm glad to make your acquaintance, Clark. You're famous in the hallways of this school. I've seen pictures of you everywhere. She didn't say anything about remembering the beginning when she bought the property. She just took it as it's just them all over again because there'd been so much time passed and that's a different part of life and now you're grown-ups. Things have changed, right? Clark says, oh, Those pictures. They're still hanging around in the school, are they? How embarrassing. Don't worry, I'm not really that special in regards to high school life significantly, really. I just worked for the school paper and loved my football. It's nothing more than that, he manages to say without a stutter. Janet says, are you interested in taking first aid? Clark, caught off guard by her question and wanting to continue to desperately keep on giving her a good first impression, he found that he was stuck on this matter. And there looked to be no way out of this other than to answer the obvious right response that she was looking for. Yes. I think I just might be. Where do I sign up? Janet says, right over there. On the desk, there's a sign-up sheet for the different dates of when the new classes begin. Pick one. I would love to see you in one of my classes. I have a feeling you will be chock full of entertainment. Clark says, I'll take that as a compliment, and I will accept the challenge of being full of entertainment, so I will see you in class. He walks over to the sign-up sheet and flips through the dates, picks the right one for him, and signs it. Clark says, you've been teaching here long? Pretending he had not had the conversation with his mother before leaving the house, not knowing what else to say to present small talk with her. He asked while quickly filling out the sign-up sheet and putting the clipboard back down. Janet said, well, that all depends on what's classified as a long time, but I've been here about 6 years now. Well, after you left these halls and classrooms, I was contacted by the school guidance counselor, and if I would participate in helping to teach the students here how to save lives. It's part of some kind of new school initiative, which wasn't a priority interest back when we were in school, but times have changed, and we've learned through mistakes and the school of hard knocks just how important first aid is and the ability to save a life, or just to keep someone safe and immobilized or calm until paramedics arrive, to the rest of the job of saving that person's life. And of course, I'd be crazy to turn down that kind of new initiative, since I've been fighting for schools to look at this option as part of high school curriculum and credits for years. Myself now. I guess you can say I've always been a bit of a forward thinker. I like being different. And this is a good kind of being different. I, after all, at the end of the day, am all about keeping people safe and saving lives. Clark said, how are you liking it here in Smallville and working at the high school so far? Janet, the students here are pretty pleasant and have been a joy to work with, as I hope the same will be when it comes to time to teach you, Clark. Can't hear that, so I'm just going to turn that off. Clark says, well, I will do my best to try and not disappoint you. It was a pleasure talking with you, Janet. I am glad I brought myself into town to visit the school and see what and who is new around here these days. As you can predict, in small towns, the community doesn't change much. Pretty much stays the same faces for decades at a time, so we locals can't help but get excited and curious when a new person moves to town. My mother just told me about you just today as I asked her about what is new. Not sure why she never mentioned the new program and instructor for first aid at the high school sooner. But I'd have to guess that my visits have been pretty strict and confined to just visiting her since I moved to the big city for my newspaper journalism career. And with the loss of my father, her husband, I guess you can say it means I haven't really been myself, or rather we both haven't been quite our usual selves for a time now, so that's probably how you've managed to get overlooked and missed by me. And I don't say that lightly, since I have super keen observations and other instincts built in as factors like smell senses and skin and taste, as well as keen eyes and ears like a dog, you can say for sure. So you getting by under my radar this long regards to my super self is no easy task, he says, and he laughs. So I must have been falling short somewhere, so I apologize for taking this long to make your acquaintance, but I'm sure glad you've managed to stick it out and settle in here in Smallville and managed to find a way to make this place your home. I hope the time you are here teaching the students and residents who live here how to live safer and better lives and how to help save lives for whatever abundant amount of life coach training you may have, that it proves to be rewarding and successful to the end. For whatever amount of time living in Smallville and working here, it all amounts to be. I'm sure I will be seeing you around a lot more now that we've met. I have a much more activity planned this year coming home to visit with my mother, and one of these days maybe we could sit down to a longer visit together and discuss plans, these things in more detail over coffee or something. Anyway, If I do not see you again before class, then I will most certainly see you again in your first aid class. So, yeah, I don't have that information about the house and stuff. During the making of the movie, that stuff will get put in the property and stuff. So that's where the memory of it happening and that brief period of time before she takes off again will come back. And he'll come and visit her and what she's living in. And trust me, guys, it's bad, but it's good. Flapping plastic and stuff, and they're saying, yeah, you can live in it now. So Janet says, yes, Clark. Sounds like a good possible plan. See you around. But most definitely, I will see you in class. You'd better be ready to learn and do well and participate in all the important things you're going to learn there. She smiled one large, beautiful, glowing grin. Clark couldn't help himself but notice. She was quite a stunning person as a whole, and glad he brought himself to look for her, and thought to himself, well now, what a sight for sore eyes for me. I think maybe, just maybe, my luck might just finally be changing for the better. He was now excited to find out if he was right. Clark waved goodbye, left the gym, and continued on with his Smallville High School reunion mission. Clark only has a very short time to find someone to take to the dance and high school reunion. He didn't return to Smallville with anyone in mind. He was here more for his mother than he was about the school reunion, but he knew there was no need to be a wet blanket about the situation, and at the very least he should try and not show up to the dance alone. How famous is he for that? He's doing everything by himself. So that's the end of that scene. And I just realized what I'm going to close with. Let's see. I'm going to give you guys a sweet piece of a classic Smallville. Ah, ha, ha. Y'all love this. Boom. Here we go. Thanks for watching, guys. And keep coming back for more. Have a good night. I'll be back with just poetry in different videos. There we go. Getting there. Save me. Bye everyone. Coming back for more of the Smallville Reunion movie. First half.